Happy ReZero Day is a phrase I haven't said in quite a while, because at this point it becomes more of an oxymoron every single episode. Emilia's tragic backstory has been getting sadder and sadder every week, and Pandora is truly one of the most evil characters I've ever seen in anime. I mean, seriously, how messed up do you have to be in the head to make someone bitch slap their own daughter? By the way, in Greek mythology, Pandora was the source of all the world's evil, so hopefully her name at least makes sense to everyone. But even after Fortuna's death left us in utter shock and despair, Emilia's tragic history was followed by a glimmer of hope. Not only did Emilia pass her trial, but she also passed her blunt to Betelgeuse.
Hostage hit by friendly fire.
I used to think this anime was just about Subaru suffering, but literally every other character seems to have suffered just as much, and most of them have devastatingly tragic backstories to the point that I'm immediately prepared to cry as soon as they start showing me a flashback. We finally got the new opening, and I've always been a big fan of ReZero's music choices, and this song did not disappoint me. It's catchy, and it sounds like something I'd listen to on its own, even if it wasn't associated with ReZero, not to mention lyrically it fits perfectly with the current themes of Season 2. Visually, however, this opening was about what I expected. The contrast between ice and fire was a nice addition. Knowing that Emilia's overarching wish is to melt the ice in Elior Forest, they repeatedly showed Subaru with a fiery background, symbolically implying that he's the one who's gonna make Emilia's wish come true. The transitions and effects were at least on par with those of the previous ReZero openings, although it kind of felt like there was something missing. The first opening had those hidden frames you could only see if you paused right at the perfect moment. The second opening felt like the song and visuals were literally made for each other. And the third opening really felt like Echidna herself was presenting the episode to us, the viewers. But this fourth opening was just an opening. A good opening, that's for sure, but it didn't really stand out to me the same way the others did. I'll give it some time to grow on me, but at the moment I'd sadly say this is probably my least favorite ReZero opening, although it definitely isn't a bad opening by a long shot. While we're on the subject of music though, I thought this entire episode played the perfect soundtrack for every moment. There's been so much action recently, I haven't really had much time to talk about the music, but it's always been one of my favorite things about ReZero, and they continued to absolutely nail it every single episode. But let's go ahead and talk about the episode. Fortuna's death was absolutely terrifying, yet a really good scene. In fact, I thought it was even scarier than it was in the novel. Betelgeuse finally snapped and became another one of Pandora's pawns, concluding possibly the most tragic backstory in all of ReZero. I do want to go back and start chronologically though. First things first, this episode showed us another possible limitation to Pandora's authority. She can't use it to open the seal, and she can't use it to force Emilia to open it for her. She did use her authority to trick Betelgeuse into killing Fortuna, but the fact that she had to trick him implies that she wasn't able to force him to do so against his will. I think it might take us a long time to figure out the exact mechanics of her authority, but if you guys have any ideas, I'd be curious to read them in the comment section below. Just like Best Girl did a couple episodes ago, Pandora also refers to Emilia as a witch's daughter. At this point, I think the anime has made it painfully obvious that Satella is Emilia's mother. But the problem is, that's impossible. Remember that Fortuna's brother, Emilia's dad, was an elf. Well, Emilia is a half-elf, and the only way to make a half-elf is for an elf to fuck a human. But Satella isn't a human, so if Emilia's dad fucked a witch, it couldn't have been Satella. And the only other human witches that resemble Emilia even remotely are Echidna and Pandora. So what I've concluded is that Emilia's father is one lucky son of a bitch. His sister, on the other hand, wasn't very lucky at all. Betelgeuse uses the authority of sloth to kill what he thought was Pandora, but ended up being the love of his life instead.
Don't do drugs.
This particular event, combined with his incompatibility with the sloth witch factor, initiated the rebirth of Betelgeuse that spawned the villain we got to meet in Season 1. This episode officially began Betelgeuse's descent into madness and revealed to us that Pandora is single-handedly responsible for at least 3 of the most tragic backstories in the history of anime. We also got to see a glimpse of Emilia's true power. Attacking Pandora, Emilia loses control, entering her awakened form, which allows her to create ice that never melts. One of my favorite scenes this episode was when Emilia calmly takes Fortuna's hairpin and then turns to Pandora, ready to unleash her full power. This first attack was a sped-up version of Emilia's Flowers of Ice ability, which absorbs her target's blood until they're completely drained. After that, she uses what looks like the fire equivalent of El Huma to create multiple ice spikes, and then Ol Huma followed by a freezing spell. Although this all could have been the spirit arts instead, it's impossible to tell without the incantations. But the most important part was when Emilia entered her awakened form. She never seems to do this on purpose, it really only happens as a last resort when she loses control. At the beginning of Season 1, Emilia said she had a trump card that I initially assumed was Puck, but looking back now, I think she was actually talking about her awakened form. So all along, Emilia was the one that froze the forest and all the elves, though it was obviously Pandora's fault. But the scariest part of this episode was when Pandora erased herself from Emilia's memories. The reason this is so terrifying is because it means we have to question the validity of every other character's memory as well. Theoretically, Pandora could have roofied every single ReZero character for the past 400 years and we would literally have no way of knowing. I strongly believe that Pandora is responsible for a lot more than just the conflict in Emilia's past, and the only reason we haven't heard about it is because she always erases herself from memory. But after all the tragedy packed into this episode, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Emilia finally passed her trial, and it looks like she'll be freeing the sanctuary in due time. I don't think the second trial will be much of a problem for Emilia because remember, you're only supposed to see one unthinkable present, but because of Subaru's ability, the second trial was uniquely impossible for him specifically. What I'm worried about is the third trial. Emilia overcame her past, and I expect her to overcome the present too. But how will she react to the future? And more importantly, how will I react to the future? The third trial is something I really can't wait to see, because if it's gonna show Emilia the future, then it might reveal a lot about what direction the ReZero story is headed. This episode ended with Roswaal being confronted by the three idiots, and apparently Otto's existence was so insignificant that Roswaal's gospel didn't even mention him. But Otto's role this season was essential in turning Garfiel into an ally and establishing Subaru's confidence. So because of Otto, the plot was able to diverge from what was written in Roswaal's gospel, and that's why Subaru's now asking him to surrender. The final line of this episode, though, is referring to something we haven't been shown yet. The true reason the sanctuary was created is actually something we were supposed to see like 3 episodes ago, but it looks like White Fox wants to adapt that material out of order. I highly doubt they would skip over something as important as that, so I'm assuming they're gonna show it next episode. I really don't think you nervous novel readers have anything to worry about, although considering what happened to the Promised Neverland, I can't really blame you for being anxious. This episode was a very good adaptation though. I didn't notice that much cut content, although a detail I would have liked them to emphasize was the fact that Pandora had actually been controlling the lesser spirits that led Emilia to the seal. It wasn't anything hugely important, but I thought it was at least worth mentioning. Fortuna's death followed by Juice's reaction was definitely the highlight for me. I think it's obvious where most of this episode's budget went. The Roswaal conversation at the end kinda looked a bit goofy compared to the rest of the episode, but I'm not gonna complain. I mean, we've been getting 30-minute episodes every week, and White Fox is clearly going above and beyond by making this a truly amazing adaptation. Oh, and just as a reminder for any anime-onlys out there, I don't recommend closely analyzing the new opening, or really just openings in general, because they tend to spoil a lot of future events. There were a couple things in this new opening I chose not to mention to avoid spoilers, so I'm not saying to skip it, but just try not to pay too close attention. Well, assuming they even play it again. Of course, this episode gets a 10 out of 10 from me, and I know a lot of you guys are asking about the Greed If story. I'm gonna be re-uploading it soon. Right now it's available to channel members while I do a bit of editing, but I will be making it public soon. If you guys enjoyed this video though, please give it a like to support me, and make sure you subscribe to be notified when the next one comes out. Keep talking about ReZero though. I'm out for now. Peace.